Welcome to Hard Cam Wrestling Podcast, where falls count anywhere. There are no disqualifications and a 2-hour time limit. Introducing the participants. The opinionated one, Ryan Sangster. The 18-year-old piece of gold, Joseph Parr. The real deal, the anti-Miz, Ryan Palmer. King of strong style chat, Nick the Twin Towers, and the real franchise, James Richards.
Hello, welcome to the Hard Cam Wrestling Podcast right here on Podbean and YouTube. I'm James Richards, joined by Joseph Parr. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm all right, thank you, James.
And we have a very special guest today. It is voice of TNT Wrestling in Liverpool. It is Mike Maddog Angus. How are you doing today?
Hi, James. Hi, Joseph. Good to hear from you guys. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain. The torrential rain's a good backdrop to a nice interview.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, the weather's not looking too good here on the Wirral either. We just had a Christmas tree blow past a moment ago, but it's gale force winds, torrential rain. Perfect weather, though, to talk about a bit of wrestling. So,
Indeed.
How are you guys? You both been well leading up to Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been alright. Bit upset that no pubs are open, but other than that.
Oh, yeah.
Two
Whereabouts are
straight
you
edge for that.
based?
I'm near Brighton.
Near Brighton. So are you in Tier 3, is it?
Tier 2.
Tier 2. Oh, yeah. So
But no pubs in my town sell food, so.
nightmare. Oh, no.
Great.
That's my shoot job. I work in a restaurant in Pulp.
Shoot job.
Called the Red Fox on the Wirral, which is a really nice place to visit. And we served substantial meals. But I was in work last night, and it was it was pretty busy. Really, we're keeping things safe there, but it was still pretty busy.
Yeah.
So you can get a pint still on the Wirral at the moment. So as long as you have your Scotch egg plus.
I saw some pubs, different places, just selling bees on toast for about £2.50.
That's it. Well, if you can get away with it, that's everyone wants to keep the business going at this tough time. So that's it. Yeah, I think that some of the rules are a little bit strange, but I think they're genuinely trying to look after the economy and people's health as well. So I suppose we've got to support them in that. But we're not here to talk about the government. So let's talk about a bit of wrestling, guys. What have you got for me today?
Well, I thought we'd start off with, obviously, as a child, did you know from an early age you wanted to be involved in wrestling in some way? Like, did you want to be a wrestler when you were growing up?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I loved the wrestling from a very early age. So I've told this story a couple of times, but I'll let you guys in on it as well. So we had a video store at the top of the road by ours called LA Video. And we used to go there at the weekend and pick up, me and my brother would get a video each. And I would invariably always pick one of the wrestling videos to watch. So, went back through all the history of, it was WWF at the time. So mainly things like SummerSlam 88, 89, Royal Rumble 90, 91, the early WrestleManias, WrestleMania 3 and 4 were some of my favourites. WrestleMania 5, the Mega Powers Explode. Used to watch all those, and then as I grew up or didn't grow up as it is, used to watch my nan and grandma at Sky Television, so I used to watch the WWF on the afternoons then, so it was Superstars Challenge, and basically the whole afternoon on Sky was wrestling shows on the Sunday, so caught up on all them. Used to watch WCW when it was on Saturday afternoons, when back in the day when stunning Steve Austin was in the Hollywood Blondes with Flying Brian Pillman and Rick Rude and Cactus Jack and Surfer Sting were on there. So so I used to watch all the classics, and then and from there, as I grew up, it was the Attitude Era, and it was the ECW. I was a really big fan of ECW, and then and then when I was younger, my parents didn't take me to any wrestling shows, probably because they didn't like me being a fan of wrestling at all. Yeah. Which probably is why when I went to university and stuff, I started going to just loads of shows and went to sort of everything that was on. So I've been to some great wrestling shows through the years. I went to sort of Rebellion 2002, Insurrection in 2003. And that's sort of around the time I was like 17, 18, and
Yeah.
went to the first Raw in the UK, went to the first SmackDown in the UK. Used to go to all sorts of different things. Any like promotions that were setting stuff up that looked cool, I'd go to. So I went to Universal Uproar in the Coventry Sky Dome back in the day, and that was a card that had Mick Foley tagging with Sandman for the first time ever in their
Jesus
careers.
Christ.
And it had Kenta Kobashi was on the card
Fucking hell.
in the main event. Yeah, so I've been lucky to to get to see like everybody I ever wanted to watch. Really, any wrestlers I've been a fan of, I've been lucky enough to either meet at conventions or get to see wrestle live at shows. So I've been over to WrestleMania a couple of times. I went to WrestleMania 23 in 2007. That was in Detroit. So I flew over for that. I had a great. Was only there for like 5 days, but I had an absolutely brilliant time.
Yeah.
And got to go to loads of different events and stuff at that. They did a screening of the Condemned, the Stone Cold Steve Austin movie at the Fox Theatre in Detroit.
Oh, bloody hell.
Which was a great experience because at the end of the movie, Stone Cold came out during the end credits and had a few beers with everybody. So that was quite crazy when you get to the end of the film and the star of it comes out.
And then Stone Cold comes out.
That's it.
Da-na-na-na-na-na.
That's it. Full on theme tune and everything. He's like,
Enjoy the movie.
What?
What? Yeah, so that was pretty awesome. And then I've been just to loads of different wrestling shows through the years, and used to go to 1PW in Doncaster. Me and the guys used to go up to Preston for PCW for a few years, and up to Scotland to check out ICW, and then just from my fandom, I randomly found my way into the wrestling business myself, and I've always been like the loudest guy in the room, and with my wrestling knowledge, it fitted well that I'd be able to do some ring announcing for somebody at some stage, and TNT Extreme Wrestling in Liverpool needed a ring announcer, and one of my good friends who knew me from being a quizmaster put my name forward, so the rest is history. I've been ring announcing for them for nearly 6 years now,
Wow.
and lots of other promotions now as well. So so great stuff with the wrestling business there.
Blimey. Like, I've only just started going to watch wrestling shows in the past few years. Of course, I'm only 21, D22, so I might be able to go. My local independent show's Riptide.
Ah, yes.
And I've just gone for a few shows there. They're really good. The really unique Riptide with the camera angles. I've been to WCPW when that was around.
Oh, yeah. I went to one of their shows in Liverpool, Kirby Mania, I believe it was the one I went to.
The show I went to is when Drew Galloway came back after his injury.
Oh, awesome.
With the famous line, Joseph Connors, you are fucked.
Well, I got to see Drew quite a few times, and I think one of the last shows I saw him do before he headed back over to the States was he had a match against Noam Dar, which was quite an intriguing match. But Drew has always looked like a star. I couldn't believe it when he when he did leave WWE for a bit, but it's led him on the path to where he is now. So he's doing great.
Yeah, safe to say, if he didn't leave, he wouldn't be WWE champion right now.
Yeah, I believe that's the case. Yeah, definitely, and he worked hard for it, and we saw him back up at ICW. There's some great moments he had there, and then he worked so hard, and he was main eventing cards all over the UK in that time, and hitting the gym hard as well.
Yeah,
and I think it really developed his character, and now he's obviously at the top of his game, and this week with Sheamus was quite funny on Raw. I thought the frenemies aspect of it, that's. It's got to lead to a clash at some point between them.
Very Sheamus and Cesaro type deal again, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. But I think I enjoyed the Cesaro thing, but I think I still think there's a lot more from Cesaro to come in WWE.
Oh my God,
such a talent, and he still hasn't had he still hasn't had that storyline he deserves there. So hopefully someday it'll come. Similarly with Big E, I'd like to see them two in a bit of a feud to see who's going to be a number one contender. Would be great.
It is a question that's been thrown around. Would you call Big E like a main event quality talent?
Oh, I definitely think he is, and I think they've missed the boat on him already. To be honest, I think when he first came in and he'd been training at John Cena's gym, and he was doing the 5 count at NXT. I think he was an amazing star then, and I think they brought him in as like Dolph Ziggler's manager, didn't they?
Yeah.
And
It's heavy and AJ.
they could have
Them
brought
and
him
AJ
in.
Lee.
Yeah, exactly. They could have brought him in in a better position then, really. But
Yeah.
because they'd started him off at that level, they then built him up to New Day, and then that took off so well. You can't change the history for them. They did great things, but now's the time to really pull the trigger on Big E, I reckon, and I think he's got a big future in hand if he keeps doing what he can do. So it'd be good to see how they use him, to be honest.
Well, I think I'm the only one in the hardcam group that actually get behind Big E as a main eventer. Others have been saying, he's Intercontinental title levels ready. I think, he shut him up to the main event. Kofi did it, and he got over as hell. In fact, they didn't do much after WrestleMania, but
it depends. I think how much of him you've seen before that. When he was in NXT and all that sort of time period, he was absolutely dominant, and they just sort of missed the boat by bringing him up at that lower level. And I think now if they can get back to him doing that again, I noticed he had the talc again, the chalk this week again on SmackDown. I think just bits and bobs like that were the things that really got him over with the fans. And I think, I do think he's got that there's a possibility there that if they use the story right and use him correctly, he'd be a big star. So arguably he already is a massive star anyway. But
he is very over.
Yeah,
already.
He could be main event stuff and main event in Mania, and they just need to get the long-term storytelling right for it, which is something we speak about a lot on other podcasts as well. That people that you don't see as much sort of long-term story planning as you used to, probably just because of the nature of the audience as well. They cater for people who want to just see what's happening straight away, whereas that long-term storytelling aspect seems to have been lost a little bit on the TV product, unfortunately, which is a shame, because a lot of people are still old school fans and appreciate a good story.
Good long-term story, yeah. Which you
it.
don't get a lot of from
not sure if you guys
anymore.
saw it. Not sure if you guys saw this, but on Talking Smack this past weekend, they sort of sowed a little seed with Big E and Roman. Because Heyman was talking to Big E saying, you could be so much, but you don't see Roman Reigns. If people see Roman Reigns, they don't go, he was in the Shield.
For the Shield, yeah, I saw that. That was a great quote, and that hopefully is the start of something big there. He said to him, didn't he? Soon they're not going to be talking about Big E from the gang. It's going to be just Big E.
I don't know. I'm not convinced, but that is a whole conversation for another day.
That's it. Wait till he's got the title, and then you can tell us.
Yeah. What is this? We're going to go back to another question here. I like the tangents, but what is your first memory of wrestling? Like, you said you used to watch Beth on Sky and stuff. What was your first memory where it just hooked you instantly? Was there a certain wrestler or?
Yeah, you know what though? I'm trying to think that one that really hooked me was it must have been SummerSlam '88. I was watching on VHS, and this is probably around sort of, I'm guessing about 91, 92. I would have watched this, maybe even earlier as 90. So when I was sort of 5 or 6, and I'll always remember there was that bit where Brutus Beefcake was meant to be facing Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental title, but the week before on the television Big Bully Busick had come out and attacked Beefcake with some sort of it was like the bull rope that he used, and that Beefcake was busted open, and they put this big cross across the screen that said censored on it, and I was just like, what's happened there? And you could see that Beefcake was busted open, and I'd never seen anything like that before. I was like, what's going on here? It's censored. What? Why is it censored? And my mum was like, you're not watching that if it's censored. and anyway, that sort of was just one moment that was like, what's going on here? What is this? And then after that, the next thing that happens is obviously Honky Tonk Man, who's been the IC champ for 480 something days or whatever. The next minute, the Ultimate Warrior comes out and just beats him in about 15 seconds, doesn't he? So that particular match was on that card, just really hooked me. I was like, what's all this going on here? I didn't have a clue what was happening. And then from there, I got all the magazines. My next door neighbour he must have been about 8 at the time. He'd grown out of wrestling then. So he donated all his wrestling magazines and sticker books and cards and stuff to me, and a couple of figures. And from there, I was hooked. And I just was terrible for collecting stuff. I'd spend my pocket money every week on wrestling figures and magazines, cards, stickers, all the stuff. I collected all of it, and most of it I've still got as well.
You talk about your mum get all something about senses. She must be mortified when Miss Elizabeth starting to undress in the main event.
Crikey, yeah, exactly, yeah. That was another highlight for me, though.
I bet it was. How old?
Yeah,
6.
Great memories. 6, yeah. Great memories there. But yeah, so yeah, that was one of my favourites, and just some of the classic wrestling shows were just so good. What would you guys say were your sort of favourite ones that you watched when you were younger?
Oh, my first wrestling memory, obviously, I am significantly younger than everyone else. My first wrestling memory, it's a weird one. It's Tribute to the Troops 2013, I think. It's The Shield versus Rey Mysterio and the Usos. And I'll tell you what, Roman Reigns, I was just hooked. I couldn't get over it. I thought Roman Reigns was amazing.
That's awesome.
Obviously, I changed my mind slightly a few years later, but
was it? Yeah, no, I think.
But yeah, the Shield is. Oh, sorry about that.
No worries.
The Shield is what I'd say what got me into wrestling.
They were a great team. I've got a couple of friends who are absolutely massive fans of them guys, and they really did sort of reinvigorate the storylines at one point when they came back in. It was good to see, and yeah, excellent. And was that yours, Joe? Sorry, did you say?
Yeah, that's fine.
Wicked. I'm just looking at my sheet. I've got all the hard cam teams' names down from when I did the when I did your introduction the other to get that sorted now.
Yep, it's all sorted.
Yeah.
I sorted it out last night, funnily enough.
Funnily enough, speaking of it, it is on this podcast.
Oh,
Yeah,
boom. So we've got the 18-year-old piece of gold, Joseph Barr, and the real franchise, James Richards, on today.
Yeah, that's me.
And what's your fave, James? Go on, tell us.
Well, mine's been the most unique one out of all of our first wrestling memory.
Oh my god, I remember this.
My first memory as watching wrestling was WrestleMania 24. That was the first show I've ever watched. And the only thing I can distinctly remember is JBL throwing a trash can at Hornswoggle.
Hornswoggle had a few years at Mania where he had bad things happen to him. I was at 23 in Detroit, and he got Kenton bombed off a ladder by Mr. Kennedy in that one. So he took a beating at a few Manias on the run there.
I remember that. I remember, why is he throwing a bid at a midget? What did he do?
That's the sort of thing that sticks in your memory, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I think what actually got me as a fan might be the Money in the Bank ladder match, which was the next match after.
Who was in that one?
I think John Morrison, CM
That's
Punk.
good already then.
CM Punk, Shelton Benjamin, Chris Jericho, Carlito, Mr. Kennedy, and MVP.
That's a
decent little group in that one.
Yeah.
Shelton Benjamin always pulls out a bit of magic.
Yeah. Jeff Hardy was supposed to be in it and win it, but he got suspended by beating Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
So
the one the year before was the one where Edge and Jeff Hardy took themselves out the match, and Kennedy won the one I was at, and then could have gone on to greater things, but I think he had some issues, didn't he, with them? So it was unfortunate that storyline didn't work out better for him.
Wasn't he supposed to be the illegitimate son?
What was that, Tom?
He was meant to be Vince McMahon's son.
Then face Triple H at Mania 24.
But it turned out to be Hornswoggle because, of course.
That was it. It had to be the Raw GM instead.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
To be fair, Hornswoggle's had some high profile things going on.
He's the last ever Cruiserweight champion.
Yeah.
And he's reappeared just recently, hasn't he? He's on Impact Wrestling.
He's been on Impact. He's been on AEW.
I love so much the AEW one.
And there was something I saw the other week where he was dressed as AJ Styles.
Yeah. I think it's just Hornswoggle is just something he's just someone that's always there, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll always be a factor. You can always get a good kick out of him as well.
Yeah,
that's it. Well, he's had some good matches as well. For a smaller guy, he's a very talented fella. So, and I think from some of the stuff I've seen that he does backstage and everything, he definitely looks like he's a good laugh to have around on a show. So, be good to see.
Obviously, the main highlight was WLC.
Oh my god! I mean, we laughed, but it was actually quite a good match.
Probably by now would have put this up on Facebook, but I think it's the most underrated TLC match of all time. No one talks about it in regards. It's just so fun.
Get it shared.
All right, so we talked about first memories of wrestling. Do you remember the first match you announced for?
Let me think. There was a TNT Extreme Wrestling. It was going off big time. I think it was June 27th, 2015. And I'm just thinking what the match order card was. There was there was a dark match. I can't think who was it. I think Alexander Young, who wrestles at World Wrestling Association, was in that. And then the first match on the card, I'm trying to think. I've got a feeling it was could have been Joseph Connors.
Ooh.
Actually, no, I'll tell you what it was. It was the tag match. It was Special Edition versus the Hunter Brothers was the first match on the card. And so if you're not familiar with Special Edition, they are the tag team of Kip Sabian, Superbad Kip Sabian, and Brad Ingram. Wow. And the Hunter Brothers are obviously a classic. You take Lee and Jim, the quintessential British wrestling tag team, who are like, I would say they're like a version of the Rock and Roll Express personally, but they're two very skilled athletes. And the funny thing about that match was Special Edition were doing like I think they said they wanted to be sort of like a throwback 80s gimmick, but they hadn't brought any theme music with them that day. And they randomly said to me, can you just pick as a theme music? And whatever it is, we'll come out and we'll react to whatever theme music you play for us. So at a crowd of extreme wrestling fans, Kip Sabian and Brad Ingram came out to Ghostbusters. And obviously they were wrestling as the heels and just absolutely were going nuts about it. They were trying to get the sound guy out the sound booth, and they were, one of them was throttling me for picking that song for them, So, we got the 80s vibe anyway for them, and then it definitely got the reaction that we wanted from them because they were covering their ears and doing all sorts in the crowd. Were really having a good laugh about that one. So I think out of one of my decisions made sort of backstage, that was probably one of my better calls.
That reminds me of the time I think it was the WCPW show.
I was just about to bring that up.
Scott Wainwright came out, and then Ross, obviously he had a bit of a feud with Ross over social media from Cultaholic. I think Ross made it so he goes, my old man's a dustman, and he wears a dumpster's hat. I think he used to do that on the videos. He's going, oh, my man's a dustman, he wears a dustman's hat. And Scott Wainwright hated it, so he made it his theme song during the Rumble.
I remember that.
That's class, isn't it? I do like it when they carry stuff like that over. And people like What Culture and Cultaholic have done such a good job of covering the whole wrestling scene and making sort of the characters for themselves and everything. We had Simon Miller was on TNT Ignition at the last show we had against Big Guns Joe.
I love Simon,
which was a great match, and I was very impressed with Simon's wrestling ability. I've obviously seen him on the videos online and stuff, and then to meet up with him and everything, he was a great guy, good banter backstage and everything, and then to see that he's a very good wrestler as well was great to see. Hopefully, we'll see more of his story developing at TNT Ignition next year when we're back to shows. So that'll be good to see.
Yeah. Right, shall we go to a fan question? Is that something you want to do?
Definitely, I'm more than up for that. I saw a few of the fan questions. People really putting a lot of effort into those, and it was great to see lots of interaction on the post. So obviously, looking forward to a few of those guys listening and hearing out for their questions today. So go on, hit me. What have you got for me?
We've got Graham Fisher, and he said, "Is there any pre-show routine you do before going out?"
Well, Graham is somebody who's been coming to TNT Extreme Wrestling right the way from the start. He's a big fan, and he he certainly is. And he meets up with other fans before the show and everything, and has a little gang of people who all catch up together have a few drinks before the show and everything. So yeah, he's a good guy, and sort of ritual-wise backstage. One important thing I always do is try and make sure I speak to everybody who's on the card before the show to make sure I get all the details correct, because Howard Finkel once told me a great piece of advice, which was don't get their names wrong.
Wow.
So
wiser words have never been spoken.
Exactly, yeah, for a ring announcer, that's certainly the case. So I just make sure I've got as much detail as I can from people, and then try and make sure I try nowadays not to use cards if I can help it when I'm in the ring. So I try and memorize what I'm going to say and everything. Just think it comes across more professional. And so yeah, I try and do that. So I try and make sure I've got everything down. Some wrestlers portray more of a challenge than others. We had one gentleman who won't be mentioning today, but he did have sort of 15 nicknames that I used to have to recite. So yeah, so that was something I had to learn off by heart, which was always a good thing to sort of practice before going out to start the show, because if I had that down in my head, I knew I could pretty much remember anything. So yeah, so that's one of the things I used to do. And then obviously before the show we do the pre-show for the VIP. So I have one thing where I never put my jacket on till we start the main show. So if you look at any of the pre-show clips or whatever, I'm always in a waistcoat or just shirt and tie. And then when the main show starts, then I'll have whatever.
That's when the jacket
snazzy
comes on.
Jacket comes on. That's it. Yeah. So that's one of my a little thing that people might not have caught on to, but we always do that. There's not many shows where I have more than one outfit. There was a Wrestle Island show where I did change in the interval once and had the second outfit. I think I just needed extra photographs that day.
Also, must be quite hard to remember. Like if you get a guy like obviously Pentagon came in once, try and remember. I have to try and get that Spanish as well into it.
That was it. Yeah, there's one where I was ring announcing Pentagon and Pac, and I spoke to Penta before, and it's just sort of making sure I got down the right sort of thing was pretty difficult, to be fair. But I think we nailed it on the show, which was good. But they were but it was such an honor to meet those guys, and Phoenix and Pentagon, both the Lucha Brothers, were on that same show, and it's one of my favorite TNT shows we ever did, and they were great, and I'm working with such a great guy, but he is a bastard.
Yeah, that was my next question. How fun is it to just go, he is the bastard?
He is, and the fans eat it up, and they love the character, and they love what he does in the ring, and he is absolutely one of the best. I'm so pleased that he's back in AEW doing his thing, and I think there's so much more that he can bring to the table, because I remember back at 1PW in Doncaster, I saw him wrestling when he must have been, how old would he have been then? He was only probably 15 or 16 at the time. Yeah. So it was before he'd even gone over to the States for the first time. And he just stood out as an absolutely amazing talent. And I said, that guy's going to be famous. And then a couple of years later, there he was on WWE. And just a shame towards the end of his run there that the booking didn't seem to be right for him, which was a shame. And then obviously now he's proven to them what they could have easily done with him, because he's not doing much different from what he was doing then, apart from like now he's a superstar. So
yeah, exactly. Like sort of difference in character between his end of his WWE one and now is a bastard. That's pretty much the only difference. It's pretty much the same character.
He's just a bastard now.
Yeah, but it's fair. I would be annoyed if I have to keep jobbing out to Enzo. So not gonna lie.
Saw Enzo and Cass back at NXT at the Blackpool Empress Ballroom when they came through on a run, and they were absolutely one of the most over tag teams I've ever known. And how they dropped the ball with those two guys, which is, basically the perfect tag team for Vince, really, when you think about it, with a 7-footer who can wrestle and speak a bit on the mic, but then with an absolute motor mouth of a guy who can also wrestle, and is just sort of, he's an absolute character, I'll give him that. And so opinionated and everything. I don't know how they ever dropped the ball with those guys, to be honest. It was so over.
Because WWE just love to break up a tag team, don't they?
It's a short-term storyline, that, breaking up a tag team. You have your breakup, you have that storyline, and then one of them is going to go on to. It's always the same. One of them is going to go on to bigger things, and one of them is going to squander about in the mid card. It's the whole Rockers.
In this case, both of them are going to get released.
Jannetty story in it. Well, that's it. One of them is going to eventually get released. So why not keep them as a tag team and build your tag team division?
Yeah, well, it's sort of done Otis. They broke Otis and Tucker up, and just put Blight Otis back in the tag team with Chad Gable.
Yeah, and Tucker disappeared into obscurity and had one bit of different gear, and then had a match for the 24/7 title, and they don't know what they're doing with him. So I mean, it's like that. That's the frustrating thing about being a wrestling fan, is sometimes you look at it and you think, wow, that's somebody I want to see more of. He's a very talented athlete or whatever, great character and everything. And then suddenly, for whatever reason, backstage or somebody else's opinion, they're never used again. It's like, where's that guy gone? And then you see him pop up on the indies and stuff. It's like, it's just sometimes, like, as a fan, you have a different opinion of the people who are actually booking the shows, which is, it can be good, but it can be very frustrating,
Yeah.
Like a tag team like the Rockers.
There's always a Marty Jannetty to someone's Shawn Michaels.
Exactly, and we looked after Marty for the Love of Wrestling last year. He's a great guy, still got some great stories, and he's had a different story than Shawn, obviously. So which is a shame, because after the initial Rockers split, that's one of the things that always stands out as one of my favourite storylines when I was younger. That barbershop segment. And after that, they had a couple of bits where Marty came back, but I believe he'd had some problems with the law outside of wrestling. But in sort of '92, he came back and did a storyline when he first returned, and Shawn was in the ring posing in a mirror, and then Marty came in behind him, and Shawn could see him in the mirror in the reflection, and that little storyline was great. And then Shawn pulled Sherry in front of him, and she got the mirror smashed over her head, and Bobby Heenan goes "Oh, Marty Jannetty just hit Sherry with the mirror."
So going back to that barbershop segment, Bobby Heenan just made that. It's like, Marty tried to escape from Shawn by jumping through the window.
Bobby Heenan was an absolute legend. I loved just watching matches with Bobby on commentary, and just before he passed away, me and my son were lucky enough to meet him at Wales Comic Con, and he still had that little glint of, in his eye, and he was giving thumbs up to all the kids, but then any adults who glanced at him, he was giving them the finger. So, and the kids weren't watching, so he was still absolutely top banter, and what an absolute legend. I was honoured to have met him, and just his calls on. He's made some great segments. The '92 Royal Rumble.
I was about to mention that.
I just think that is one of the greatest pieces of commentary ever. He built up Ric Flair so well, and I said that to him when I met him. I said, that is literally my favourite piece of commentary work ever, and I hold JR in such high esteem and the commentary, but still that performance on that, of building somebody up as a heel commentator and building that heel character over the course of an hour, it's just an absolute masterpiece. And that's exactly what wrestling should have in it, great bits of storytelling like that by people who are just over the top characters, but he really was the weasel.
So I might go back to Facebook here. Our very own Nick the Twin Towers. Who is going to be the next British wrestler to be a breakout star from the independent scene, in your opinion?
Yeah, so there's so many great young wrestlers coming through at the moment. People like I really enjoy working with Jack Griffiths and Dougie Matthews, Nick Cutter, Cameron Solas, Scott Oberman, all really great young talents. But one guy who really stands out for me at the moment is Big Guns Joe. It's actually his birthday today, I believe. So happy birthday,
Happy
Joe.
birthday.
But the henchest guy in pro wrestling, he is just an absolute brilliant wrestler. And the fact that he is so hench and the sort of storylines that he has, which can associate with that. There was a show for Wrestle Island where he had skipping ropes, mini trampolines, a rowing machine, and a bike underneath the ring during his match. So when he wasn't decimating his opponent, he was going under the ring to do some extra exercises to get extra hench. I just think that guy, he deserves to be absolutely showcased by any promotions. And I know he's working in a lot of places next year, and that's great to see. And just long may his matches continue being as great as they've been. He had a match at TNT Extreme this year. I believe it was at Project X earlier, which would have been March sort of time, maybe even late February. And he had a match against Joe Gacy, who's just recently been signed to WWE NXT and the Performance Center. And the match him and Joe had was brilliant, and it was just one of them times where it just clicked. Gacy was there, and Big Guns Joe took up that challenge and actually fought for a title there. But I won't give any spoilers about that. You'll have to powered for if you've not seen it.
Sounds like
Cheeky.
a guy that Vince McMahon would love.
Mate, he's just so talented, the guy, and he's got the comedy timing that I think you need with wrestling. He can play all roles that you need him to, and he always puts on a great match. And the thing is that the crowd absolutely love his work, which is what it's all about. Making sure that the fans are enjoying themselves, and he certainly does that. Whether he's ruining the day or making sure they're having a great day, he's brilliant at it. So I think he's definitely one to watch out for, and definitely another good one to mention. There's two ladies who've been watching for a while, who I've worked with at Wrestle and at TNT, Alexis Falcon and Lizzie Evo. And it's just been announced this week that those two ladies will be facing each other at TNT Extreme Merseyside Massacre on January the 30th. So, they're two of the best female talents in the world at the moment. Lizzie's the TNT Women's Champion, and Alexis wants that title, and we'll have to see what happens in January. And tickets for that are now available on Wrestling Travel as well. So, that'll be a cracking show, guys, and we're still slightly limited, I think, on how many people we can have in for the shows in next year in 2021. So, get your tickets, snap them up while you can, and if you guys could be there, it'd be great to see some of the Hard Cam Wrestling podcast team there at the shows for sure.
My plan is next year to attend at least one TNT show.
Yeah, I'll do the check up there.
That's it. Them trips to Liverpool are something special, and we've changed it slightly this year, as in we're going to be running the TNT Extreme shows on the Saturdays, and then running the TNT Ignition, which are the family-friendly shows, on the Sundays. So if you're coming up to Liverpool, make a little weekend of it. Get your hotels booked now while they're nice and cheap, and train tickets or however you're going to make your way to the show. People are booking flights from the States to get over for a few this year. So great.
I'll be there with my Man United shit.
That's it. I'll certainly spot that. We'll
be the only two.
I'll try and save you from the other fans and wrestlers, but you never know what'll happen there. If you want to go to football slightly, I did watch Match of the Day last night after work, so that was you ground out a result against City at home there, but I'm surprised it didn't go differently there. I thought you might have snuck a few points off them.
Yeah,
it looked like we're going to talk about football slightly here now. It looked like they needed to score for us to get a couple. I think if they'd have scored, I think we would have won that game.
I think so as well. I thought City didn't look as good as they have done recently. Obviously, I support Liverpool, and we've got and so I'm hoping for a good. But we'll have to see. That'll be an interesting match to watch. The Savvy.
I can't lie. I've got to back Fulham there because Tony Khan.
Well, that's it. The AEW link there.
Yeah. Fulham
have looked a little bit better in recent matches. They looked decent against Everton the other week, and they have looked a lot better beginning of the season. They looked like they were going to be whipping boys, but I think
West Brom have got that handled there.
Might have them today. They have, they've become experts.
I'm expecting a good at least 5-0 from Liverpool today.
Well, the goal difference between us and Tottenham's 5 at the moment, I think. So
you're welcome.
I'm sure they'll be hoping to close. Sure, they'll be hoping to close that gap a little bit today. We'll have to see. And who've Tottenham got today? They're on at lunch, just a little bit later on. The 2 o'clock, I think.
Fill time.
Oh yeah.
Let's have a look.
I think it's Palace.
That could be an interesting game.
Yeah, it is.
Palace. Who did Palace? Did Palace play?
They just beat West Brom like 4-1 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're looking a bit better, but Tottenham have come good since sort of Kane and Son have started playing together, haven't they? So they haven't really used Bale. They've used Bale a bit more sparingly than I expected. I thought he was going to be coming back as as a bit of a star for them, but they seem to be just using him off the bench at the moment. But
Yeah.
But he hasn't played much
Could be
last year, so might
that's
be a
it.
fitness
Yeah,
issue.
he's plenty of golf from what I've heard.
But going back to the whole thing, I watched half of Summer Explosion from last night. So I
Yeah.
watched up to the freeway, and I was not gonna lie, I popped when El Phantasma was digging at Liverpool.
Oh mate, he's a horror El Phantasmo. He always puts his sunglasses and leather jacket on me when I'm trying to ring it out, so I can't see what's going on. And it's dead dark in there, and then he takes me mic off me and abuses all the hometown fans. Yeah, so. But did you watch? That's the match with Scotty, isn't it? And the OJMO.
Yeah.
Did you watch to the end? Because that's got one of my favourites ever moments in wrestling history.
I didn't watch all
Did you watch
the
the end of it?
I didn't watch all
At the end of the match, El Phantasmo's coming away up the entrance ramp, drinking a bottle of water, and Scotty Davis is down in the ring with the OJMO sort of next to him, both beaten in that one, and OJMO standing next to me on the stage, and he actually throws a full bottle of water at Scotty Davis, and as it's flying through the air, OJMO just sticks out a hand and catches it.
Ooh.
Which
Coolest
he
man.
had absolutely no right to catch, and also it was just the absolute horrible heel move by ELP just to throw a full bottle of water at somebody who's like down in the ring. But the fact that OJMO spotted it just out of nowhere and caught it, it was like literally that was such a moment for OJMO, and it really stood out as a great moment for him.
You look like the coolest man if it goes off.
That's it. It was just the thing. It was so random that he spotted it flying through the air and just caught it. It was just like, whoa. The crowd just absolutely went nuts for that. Yeah, so that whole match is worth watching, obviously, on the rest of the card. But check out that particular moment, because it's just like, you just can't believe it. You see my reaction. I'm standing right behind ELP, and I'm just like, I was astonished that it occurred. I was just like, oh my God. And like, you hear the crowd go nuts straight away. It was just unprecedented that something like that would occur.
Should be an instant number one contender, that should be.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. Just thinking, somebody mentioned to me this week that you wanted an unpopular opinion from me. Is that the case?
Yes, we do. That was actually going to be my next question, funnily enough. This is James's favourite thing.
I love unpopular
I'm a mind
opinions.
reader as well, sorry. But so I had to have a little think about this, because I'm sure I have unpopular opinions, but people don't ever tell me. But I'll tell you one that is definitely an unpopular opinion that people do tell me. I actually really enjoyed WrestleMania 9, which is the Toga Party, and I believe it's probably the most frowned upon WrestleMania of all time. I hear so many sort of bad reports of it and everything, but me and Wrestling with Johners did a little. We ran through the card and did a little watch along of that, and it's available on Wrestling with Johners. But WrestleMania 9 doesn't half take some stick, but there were just some moments in that. But I watched it as a child. Obviously, I must have been 9 or 10 at the time, and just some bits of it I thought were great, and it gets a lot of flack. So I think my unpopular opinion is that I did enjoy some aspects of WrestleMania 9. So like the Shawn Tatanka opening match was solid. Crush and Doink was is really frowned upon by sort of wrestling experts, but I loved that that Doink heel character and the whole double vision. And Bobby Heenan again helps it, because he's doing the commentary on that, and he's saying he's coming up with all sorts of classic one-liners. Also, Heenan on the camel, coming out backwards on a camel. I just thought, these are hilarious moments, and things to look back on. They are, we're not creating as many moments like that in wrestling at the moment. People don't like to make fun of themselves as much. They take it very seriously.
Wrestling is more about the match than the moment now.
Exactly, and sometimes their memories and moments is what you remember. I only watched it back a few months ago, and the Steiners versus the Head Shrinkers was an absolute brutal contest. Them guys beat the hell out of each other. And there's one point, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but towards the end of the match, Scott Steiner takes a bump, just runs and just jumps out of the ring and just lands on the outside. And it was just it is just absolutely shocking. It's one of the sort of worst falls I've ever seen in wrestling. But obviously it does have its detractors who aren't big fans of the toga party and stuff, and also
I think the main
big
detractor is the
thing is
main event,
Hogan.
isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Brett and Yoko. Brett does his best against Yoko, and Yoko, was such a great character and storyline. But Brett gets a great match out of him there. Probably could have gone a couple more minutes, and then obviously the whole. I thought Mr. Fuji was good in his little bit, calling Hogan a yellow belly, and then the ending there. Looking back at it, does stink, but but Brett put it in his book where he's like, "Go get him, Hogan," and
Why would you do that?
And also Giant Gonzalez take it was pretty rough as well, but but yeah, that's my own popular opinion. I actually WrestleMania 9 is a bit of a guilty pleasure. I can still look back at it with fond memories, whereas a lot of people look back at it and hope to burn the DVD. So,
well, I think with WrestleMania 9, obviously there are bad WrestleManias like 32, 27, 11, but I think with WrestleMania 9 it's just so silly that it sort of gets. I always think it gets a bit of a free pass, but it's just so silly.
Yeah, but the thing is, wrestling is fun. It's like there's got to be stuff for other people to enjoy, and it's you see different things on different cards that some people like and some people don't, and I think it's got to be a mixed bag. I think that one, not the overall theme for some people put them off too much. I think there is still some light in there, like Darth Vader in Star Wars. There's still some good in him.
Yeah, but you also there are just crap WrestleManias out there. They are just not good. They don't even have them. They don't even have little things because it's silly. But like 27, 32, WrestleMania 11 are just bad shows.
What was 32?
32, that was Triple H Reigns.
Oh God.
There's a few that haven't quite hit the mark, but I still will watch every single year and make a night of it with the guys and have a catch up and get some pizzas in and a few beers or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's some that I've not enjoyed as much as others, but most of them always have a couple of standout moments in them. Even if it's just somebody having an over-the-top performance better than you'd expect from them and being like, well, at least we've got that to look forward to and doing something in the next few months.
Yeah, but the 32, you got that opening ladder match, you got the three-way women's match. Then 27, you got Triple H Taker. That's pretty much it for that show, but also 32, you do get a half-hour Rock promo, so that's always fun.
Yeah,
always helps. I was lucky enough to be at WrestleMania 28 in Miami, Florida. Obviously, the Rock's hometown, and it was meant to be once in a lifetime, but he did beat John Cena that night, so that was redemption for me because I'd been at WrestleMania 23 when Shawn Michaels got beat by John Cena, and I was in row 5. My reaction, if you look back, I wasn't very happy. Other fans in my row are getting thrown towards the ring and everything. There's not many crowd shots at 23 when Cena wins. A lot of unhappy people at that one at the end. But the Miami one was great. But even at the ones I've been to, we had Great Khali versus Kane. Was on 23, which was
that sounds painful.
A lot of the people, when you get to WrestleMania, you find they want to go for toilet breaks and go and get hot dogs. I'll leave my seat to get to the front barrier, but I'm not going to, I'm not missing any of the show, no matter how bad it is. But a lot of people missed that Kane Great Khali match.
But I can't
imagine they missed much.
Not much.
That's it, exactly. Well, and I've seen a couple of rough matches live, yeah. But the good outweighs the bad, thankfully. So,
branching off that, what is the what would you say is the best match you've seen live then?
Oh, I've seen so many great matches. One of my favourites that I've seen live was WrestleMania 28 was the Hell in a Cell.
It's one of my favourite matches of all time.
Yeah, great to be there in person. And if you watch the show back, which I have a couple of times, as the Hell in a Cell's coming down and Triple H and Undertaker are face to face. And Shawn's there. You can see me shaking the Hell in a Cell as it comes down. I was literally front row for that, so that was great. And that's one of my absolute favourites. And ring announcing wise, matches that I've announced for, I just did a list last week, and Pac versus Pentagon Jr. was right up there. Off the same card, Ray Phoenix versus ELP. Absolutely was a mind-blowing match, guys. If you've not seen that, that is one definitely worth going back to see. And other than that as well, tag team wise, the Kings of the North and the Purge had an absolute cracking match for the TNT tag team titles at one point. I think it was the final of the title tournament, and leading up to it, they beat some great teams as well to get to the final. They beat the Mank Union, they beat Grizzled Young Veterans, and there was a lot of good teams in that tournament, and the Kings of the North and the Purge put on an absolute show-stealing match in the main event. Definitely worth looking back to see if you haven't seen it. So
I will definitely check that out.
Lucky enough to just see some great matches. Yeah, I've got some absolutely brilliant footage. This is something I've been thinking of doing for a while. But from shows I used to go to back in the day, I used to always smuggle in a small handheld camera, and I've got some absolutely brilliant footage of wrestling shows back in the day. Things like the SmackDown show in Sheffield in 2005 was literally like a week and a half after Eddie Guerrero passed away. And I've got some absolutely brilliant moments there of Rey Mysterio holding up a Rest in Peace Eddie sign, and the whole of the SmackDown roster were out in the ring for that and around the ringside area. Got some brilliant footage of that, and just seeing the guys celebrating Eddie's life was a great moment to be a part of. And I think I've just been really lucky that I've been able to get to see all the guys that I enjoyed when I was as a fan. I enjoyed watching their work, and then from working in wrestling as well, I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of them and also get to see their matches and even ring announce some of their matches as well. So it's been a real privilege and an honor, and I thoroughly enjoy working for TNT Extreme Wrestling, and I've got lots of shows coming up in 2021. And there's lots of other new companies springing up in the UK, so it's nice to see that the whole wrestling community during lockdown has, the passion for wrestling has intensified because, we've not been able to go to any shows or whatever. There's so many people have popped up, like you guys yourselves, doing your podcast. It's great to see. And, people like Stu's Wrestling Podcast, who's a good friend of mine, Wrestling with Johners, Kyle's Wrestling Podcast as well. Kyle, another young fan who'd be worth speaking to for you guys. He's just got sponsorship from Powered 4 TV and 1310 Apparel, so that's great to hear. That there's so many people with eyes on the product that people are putting out, and also I know Superstar Pro Wrestling from Liverpool, pardon me, are looking at sponsorships for people and podcasts and everything like that. So that's a great thing. And touching upon Superstar Pro Wrestling, I believe they're going to be based around the Liverpool area, doing family-friendly shows. But they've just announced a couple of guys from their roster. So Dean Allmark has been announced now to be one of their talents on that. And also, excitingly for me, the Billington Bulldogs have been added onto the roster for that. So that's Dynamite Kid's family. So it's great to see that they've been training hard and now have progressed to be on the Superstar Pro Wrestling card. So it'll be great to get to see them have a couple of tag matches. And from what I've seen of them so far, they're tenacious and look very athletic and very reminiscent of the Dynamite Kid and British Bulldog style. So I'm really looking forward to working with those guys. I believe I'll be doing commentary for those shows. So really looking forward to catching up with them and seeing what they can offer to the business. And I think there's big things on the card for them young Billingtons. So look forward to seeing it.
Is there obviously you've ring announced, I imagine, quite a few matches in your many years now. But is there one match you look at back in history and just think, oh, if I could have just announced that match?
Oh, well, the standout one I was thinking when someone posed that question was, the Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania 28. I was only 2 meters from the ring. You might as well bring me in for that one, guys.
Over the barricade.
They brought JR in to commentate it, so that was an interesting. That was amazing. That one.
I think if I was doing that, one match to stand for me would be Austin Watt from May 17. So I'd just go and it will be under no disqualifications.
Yeah, I always love a good stipulation, especially when I get told about it before the match. I'm not a fan of when they change it during the show.
That stems
You
onto a
tend to
question that
find,
we thought of. Go on.
Oh, go on, yeah.
It just stemmed onto a question we just thought of before we were talking. Is what's like the weirdest stipulation you've had to announce a match for?
Oh, well, Britannia Wrestling Promotions, just before sort of coronavirus really kicked in, the initial lockdown, we had a toilet roll on a pole match that I had to announce.
Jesus Christ, that would have been coveted back then.
Well, that was it. That was during that period. I'm trying to think. I know Lance Rivera was involved in it. But yeah, the thing was I remember the toilet roll was unraveling as the match was going on. I was like, the toilet roll's unraveling.
That's brilliant.
Commentary for that. I thought I was hoping somebody would wrap the toilet roll around the opponent's neck and choke them with it. I thought that would have been comedy gold, but unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But yeah,
that sounds different.
That's it. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. That was a Britannia Wrestling Promotions from the Frith Beach Arena in Prestatyn, and it was interesting times. I'm thinking it was at their Rumble show last year, and it certainly was. I know I've seen it on YouTube, so it'd be worth checking out. Yeah, that was sure different.
Yeah. More questions, I think, left from Facebook, so we'll go to one of these. It's which event would you have liked to attend that you didn't get to go to? And that's from Stewie John Palmer.
Oh, well, that's Stu from Stu's Wrestling Podcast. What an absolute legend. And, he's done such a great job during lockdown with some amazing interviews. And he's a really funny guy, Stewie. If you haven't had a chance to check out his podcast, give it a little watch because he's just, he's absolute comedy gold. He was on the, this week on the Wrestling Travel Podcast, which I do. He dived on briefly and nearly ended up getting divorced because of it. So yeah, that's definitely a clip you want to check out.
That's commitment, that is.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, he was meant to be shopping in Cheshire Oaks. It was his Christmas shopping day, and he got dragged away to do a podcast. But yeah, I think I would. He talks a lot about WrestleMania 25, which is obviously the Shawn Michaels Undertaker match, and he was saying that was just such a great one to be a part of. So I definitely would have enjoyed being at that one. That would have been a good one to see because that's certainly talked about as being one of the greatest matches of all time. So yeah, that would have been great. And back in the day as well, WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. That slam that was heard around the world would have been that would have been pretty special to be at that one. Would have been great to see. Also, any of the Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat matches are so well looked back upon. Would have been nice to have been at one of those. And finally, as well, one that everyone goes on about that I wish I could have been at was SummerSlam '92 in Wembley. I was just
oh yeah,
I was too young at the time, but the guys from Powered 4 TV, John Scott and Wrestling with John, also John Scott, they were lucky enough to be at that, and Stewie Palmer was, and they all remember that so fondly with British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith when he fought against Bret the Hitman Hart in the main event there for the IC title. That was just such a special moment in wrestling history, and what a show that would have been to have been at. But yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't to be for me that time.
No, we'll get a WrestleMania one day.
Hey, that's it. Yeah, have you guys not visited before?
Nope.
I've never gone to a wrestling show outside UK.
You know what? My good friends at Wrestling Travel are offering some just absolutely phenomenal packages at the moment for WrestleMania in 2022. They're doing like a thing where you can start put a deposit down now and break it down into monthly installments to pay it off. So if you start looking at it now for WrestleMania in 2022, they've said they don't know where it's going to be, but the package price is still going to be a similar price anyway. Yeah. So they're doing some great deals for people. And at the moment, I believe you can sort of email them and they'll come up with bespoke packages for that. So yeah, if you're looking at that, I would definitely reach out to Wrestling Travel and see what they can offer for you because they've got some great stuff lined up for this year's one that they unfortunately couldn't do due to COVID. They'd lined up for people to get to go to all the other shows, but also they had like legends appearing for them, and you know, you could go to like a bar and watch one of the shows and stuff, and then Hacksaw Jim Duggan or whatever be sitting watching it with you.
That is cool.
Which is just like packages like that. So that's just so great to hear. And I think the work them guys have been doing to still try and, you know, do stuff. They've had the lockdown sessions. I don't know if you have the chance to listen to any of those.
Can't say that
Justin
I have
Clapper from the States, he's done some really great interviews with young up and coming stars from the US, and definitely worth checking out. Even though they haven't been able to do their main thing, which is obviously travel, they've still been covering wrestling shows in the States as well when shows have been on, and they've been working with Alicia Atu, and also Danny in the UK as well has been hosting the UK lockdown sessions as well. So they've put out some absolutely brilliant interviews, and obviously are doing the live podcasts each Thursday on Facebook at 4. And I believe this week coming up is going to be the Wrestling Travel Awards. So anyone who's a fan of wrestling, it's worth having a little look at that, because you can vote for your favourite feud of the year, your favourite match of the year. And I know Justin Clapper, who's one of the guys who's on the show, he has been not a fan whatsoever of the Drew McIntyre Randy Orton feud. Ooh. He just feels like it's been dragged out so long. And although I think I for that reason put it as my feud of the year, because he hates it so much. So yeah, make sure you check that out, guys, and put your
vote for Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton.
You know what? Yeah,
they're doing good matches though. So.
Oh yeah, I think they had a great feud, and I think it was I think Randy Orton's had a great year, and Drew been very popular. So, but Randy Orton, I can't
finally
think
a British-born champion.
Many better years. Exactly, we waited a long time for that, but I think
should have been
British Bulldog. They always should have put the belt on British Bulldog back in the day, guys. Even if it was just the Battle Royale he won in the UK, even if that had been for the title, and then they'd switched it back the next night. It was even if it was just a gesture, or even later on in his career when he fought The Rock and Triple H, there were times then, if you look back at those matches when he was wrestling in jeans, and you know you always think of that people's elbow where I think The Rock was a referee in that match, but he hit that people's elbow after the match on the Bulldog, and he slides in his shoes across the ring. You always see that clip, but I do think at some point they definitely could have put the belt on British Bulldog, and it would have been well deserved. And
we're just waiting for an English one now.
Well, that's it. Yeah, we might have a few years. But there's great talent coming through from the UK at the moment. There's a lot of guys who are are going to be at that sort of level, and it's just making sure they stay safe and stay healthy as well. To get over to that big level. I think Grizzled Young Veterans have been looking good on NXT last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And, and Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne's got to be our best.
Ooh, he's our only hope.
This is a touchy subject here, because I don't like Pat McAfee one bit.
But Pete Dunne is the person, though. I think he's probably be the closest guy to become WWE champion from England.
I don't know. I don't know if Vince will see any value in him.
Well, have to wait and see.
Yeah, of course. What a talent! And I was lucky enough to be at the original tournament that they did in Blackpool. The one that Tyler Bate won. But Pete Dunne was an absolute standout in that tournament. He had a great showing, and at the end of the first night, I think it was, when he beat down somebody, and William Regal was shouting on him. I think that really planted the seeds for this great character that you're seeing now, and he's got so much potential, Pete Dunne. I just look forward to seeing him sort of main eventing this week when he came out and spoke to Finn Balor. I thought that was interesting, and I honestly think he's good enough to go all the way to the top. But I just hope Vince sees that as well. It's obviously he's the one who makes the call, and it'll be NXT first. He needs to build his way up to the top there, and then he's got a lot of time left in his career, Pete Dunne, I think, and hopefully he'll make it onto the biggest stage of them all.
I'd like to see British Strong Style as a collective be around the main event in WWE.
Yeah, WWE aren't really. They don't. Every now and again they'll do stuff like that, but I'm not sure if they'll bring them together. We'll have to see
No.
because they like having. They've seen a lot of value in Tyler and Trent as well, though. So
Yeah.
we can only hope that could happen. But I think Pete's doing well in that group at the moment. I know Stu Palmer, whenever we're on the Wrestling Travel podcast, he always he hates Pat McAfee.
Oh, I love that guy then. He is my new best friend. I despise Pat McAfee as well.
Yeah, I think Pat has the absolute skills on the mic. I think he.
This is where I disagree. I don't mind him in the ring.
Yeah, but you're not a fan of his mic work.
No,
I think that's what he's meant to do. He's meant to initially get that response,
Yeah.
But I think his building up of his other teammates leading up to War Games in that promo was absolutely epic. He built Birch and Oni Lorcan better than anyone I've ever seen, and made
better than NXT did it.
Well, exactly, and that he's one of the only guys who I think really does get the wrestling business as well. On his own podcast this week, he was on with a neck brace on, so
that's good.
I think that's a bit of a lost art. People actually taking their storyline onto a different platform, a different media. I think that's what we need to bring back a little bit. That mystique and the kayfabe about wrestling. I think it's been lost a little bit. There's so much stuff that you see backstage now. It's it's taken a little bit of the magic away a touch, and I think little things like that can just bring that back a little bit, even if it's just certain people paying the right respect. It builds the business back up to the level it can be, and it's a shame people wanted to see backstage so much that it's got a bit out of control to the point where now what's going on backstage can be as much of a work as what's happening in the ring. You know what I mean? Like Talking Smack does a great job of building up storylines and things, doesn't it? So it's blaring their minds between what's real and what's storyline, isn't it? Which is what a lot of people want to see, but I think it takes the mystique away a touch as well. So
speaking of Talking Smack, this is just cue my memory. Ryan Palmer, who does the podcast with us, he absolutely hates the Miz, thinks he's a terrible wrestler, thinks he's a terrible promo. What can you want to
anti-Miz, the real deal, Ryan Palmer?
What just do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that?
When Miz first came in, coming from reality TV, I'm not a big fan of people just coming in from reality TV, but I think the Miz, out of everybody, has worked so hard.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you hated him or disliked him to start with, the fact that you've seen him on television for 15 years, plying his trade, trying to improve his craft. There was a stage where he was tagging with John Morrison, and sort of partway through his career, I'm guessing it could be as early as 2015, and he really stood out to me then. He started to develop his character, started to develop a bit more aggressively, and then no matter how little of a fan of his you are, his mic skills got better, his wrestling ability got better, to the point where by WrestleMania 27, I believe, he was in contention for a title shot, wasn't he? And he was the champion at one point, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
2011.
And he's got the money in the bank now, so...
Yeah, I think, you can't deny that however annoying he might be, or however little wrestling ability you might have thought he had at the start, he's worked hard to ply his trade. And there's a wrestler in the UK, Adam Maxted, as well, who's come from... Who obviously came from Love Island, I believe. And when I first saw Adam... Well, exactly. When I first saw Adam, though, I was, I just thought this is going to be another reality TV star. And then I saw from social media and from meeting him at wrestling shows and everything, the hard work this guy's putting in. He's in the gym every day. He's at Marty Jones Squared Circle Academy training with World of Sport wrestlers. He's built his career up, and he's used being on TV as a springboard, but then it's his actual wrestling ability and his physical and athletic ability that's got him to where he is now. And he's another guy who could be a massive breakout star because he's got the physique that WWE are looking for.
Oh yeah, and the man is jacked.
His drop kick as well is something, it's absolutely special. I've seen him drop kick somebody who's standing on the top rope before.
Okada style.
So yeah, well, exactly. And I tell you what, Mark Jindrak saw his drop kick, and Mark Jindrak was looking out for him. So you never know, that could be a match we see on the cards in the next year. The battle of the drop kicks there. But yeah, no, definitely somebody who's he's worked with me at TNT this last year, and he's absolutely come on leaps and bounds. I actually remember seeing him at the Empress Ballroom in Blackpool for that UK tournament. He was at that, and he's come such a long way in a short space of time.
Yeah,
I think he's somebody you'd be definitely worth watching out for. So yeah, I think that's the what they're looking for at the moment, WWE, and I think Miz similarly has done a great job with his role, and he's stayed relevant. Whereas other people might have dropped off in that role, he's not. He's been there or thereabouts for the last couple of years. And he's he's carried, and you can't deny that he's entertaining. So
no,
that's why he's done so well, and congratulations to the guy.
And he's going to win the title again.
Well, there you have it. If that's the case, then I do like what they've done with the title at the moment, where there's so many people who potentially could challenge for it and win it. I like it when there's a bit more options rather than just when it's too set in stone and it's only going to be this guy or this guy. I like it where they build that card up a bit, and you've got a couple of guys at the top who could challenge for it. I just think having them tiers set in place whereby your upper card, your upper mid card, your mid card. When there's a tiered system like that and everyone fits into the right place, that's when I think the product grows, because then you've got people can break out of their levels, and someone like Ricochet could do with breaking out of his level.
Ricochet could do with leaving, I think.
Well, you know what? He's worked so hard to get where he is. I saw him wrestle for ICW in Scotland about 3 or 4 years ago, and he international star. Everyone knew he was one of the best in the world. And yet he's gone to WWE and he's done bits and bobs. He was in NXT, he was in a tag team. He was, he's never quite got to the level that everyone sort of who's seen him wrestle knows he can wrestle at. I don't think he's shown anywhere near his full potential, or even really had, a match anywhere near the level he can have. And it'd just be great to see him, him be given a chance and break away from that, from that sort of lower card level that they've sort of placed him in. He's so much better than that, and he's a talent you don't want to waste. I'd be pushing him to the heavens, after seeing some of his matches he's had.
Ospreay's between the two of them and staying as far away from WWE as he can be.
The thing is, though, you can't see their bank balances.
That's a good point.
That's to say.
Never mind.
And also just everything that comes with being in WWE, when you get to that top level, and then you've got action figures, you're known worldwide, and no matter where you go in the world, where's WWE superstar Ricochet?
Oh yeah,
that's huge.
If he leaves now, his profile's never going to be as big as it is.
Yeah, but as well, he might become a better wrestler because his matches. But at the end of the day, they're all striving to get to WWE, and although Ospreay's chosen a different path, it's to be either of them, I'm sure they're having a great time and enjoying their wrestling and traveling the world. And at the end of the day, if it'd just be great to see him, live up to what he can do. What I mean? Like the matches I've seen him have, like against Ospreay, some of his matches he had there were just absolutely mind blowing. If he gets to showcase that in the WWE, which I'm sure that they know he can do that, but let him show people on the biggest stage of them all. Put him in a feud with just somebody who can have a match with. Ricochet versus
his feud with Brock Lesnar had a lot of promise.
That's it, but then it just
Brock. Obviously, they don't care. They just had Brock squash him.
That's it. It's
Brock with a little guy works so well. Like Brock against AJ, Brock against Daniel Bryan,
Punk.
Yeah.
Well, Rollins.
That's it. He's had Brock Lesnar's. We were just discussing Brock the other day. The difficult thing you've got with Brock is that now he's so good and powerful. It's tough to beat him. You know what I mean? They built him up to such a level that it's got to be something huge to even get to that match with Brock. So I think he's just like a different level, isn't he? He's just stratospheric. The guys were talking the other day about if Brock came back now as a face to take on Roman Reigns as a heel, what the dynamic would be like there with Paul Heyman being with the tribal chief. It was quite an interesting conversation that they were having about that. But what would your opinions be on that, guys? Would that be something you'd like to see?
We've seen Brock versus Roman before, though, is the thing. But obviously, it's a different dynamic here.
That's it. That's what they were saying. They were saying it's because the boots on the other foot, it'd be Brock coming in as a face, which you haven't really seen since like 2003 sort of time when he was the champion.
If they bring him back as a face, they've got to do it now because I don't think he'll get cheers.
Well, I don't know. I think when he comes out, normally you get quite a lot of cheers anyway, just because people are just buzzing to see him.
Well, yeah, because he's taken the title. They just want to see the title again.
I was lucky enough to be at the Raw in Miami after WrestleMania 28, where John Cena came down to the ring and called out The Rock, and instead it was Brock Lesnar's return. Ooh. And the cheer from that, that was a massive, massive face reaction that he got that night. That was one of the loudest pops I've ever heard live. And, I just think WWE know what they're doing. If they do it right, they can make the reaction they want. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess so.
Well, I wouldn't be against it.
You've got Roman Reigns in the ring. He's standing over the battered bodies of the Usos and The Rock. Who's going to save them? The tribal chief is standing tall, and that Brock Lesnar's music hits. What's the reaction from the crowd?
Well, yeah. I think if like someone awful, like, I don't know, anyone that I think returns is just, you get a pop with a return, but whether it could be an effective babyface is what I'd question.
I think Brock's such a talented performer that and Roman that they would make it. If they were telling a story, they'd make it work, and it'd be cleverly done. So
especially with Paul Heyman.
That's it. If they were gonna do, the thing is, if they were gonna do it, they would get that right. I think so. Which is the main thing. What about they said they've put The Rock versus Roman Reigns on the back burner.
They won't do that.
Be the year after instead.
Yeah, they want to do that for LA, won't they?
That's it.
Yeah, there's no point bringing The Rock back without a crowd.
My only slight issue is the tribal chief. You've then got to make sure that character keeps growing at the level it has been, and it's sort of jumped to the stage now where it's an absolutely brilliant character, and the tribal chief is a huge thing. But can they sustain that up until a feud with The Rock, and keep it interesting? And literally, it's going to be a year and a half's time in Hollywood, possibly.
Yeah.
So it's going to be it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. I still think that storyline that they're doing with Roman Reigns has been great, and it's been building layers and layers every week. It gets a new little bit added to it. So I think feasibly it would be, they have got the ability to do that, but then they're putting out so much stuff every week. You don't want them to dilute the storyline of him being the tribal chief, do you? So be interesting to see how if they can pull that one off. It'd be ideally it would happen at the coming WrestleMania, but if they're going to be limited on fans or whatever, or The Rock's recording schedule of films or whatever doesn't fit, then it'll be the year after. There was mention of Goldberg potentially facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. What did you think about that, guys? Someone's reaction then.
There's nothing I would want to see less than that.
Yeah, a few people have said that. Goldberg, though, back in the day in WCW was absolutely just massive star.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a gutting in a way that he came into WWE so late, because even his run when he came back against sort of Triple H and Evolution, they did a great job of putting him over then. His entrance was brilliant. And obviously he met The Rock on his first appearance back, didn't he? And, what they did seem to be the right thing, but then more recently when he's returned, his matches have struggled to live up to his reputation, really, haven't they, unfortunately?
The thing is with Goldberg, they brought him back. Everyone was so hyped. He had that match with Lesnar at Survivor Series. Everyone was so hyped to see him. Then he beat Kevin Owens for the Universal title.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he had a match with The Undertaker and nearly killed The Undertaker.
And then
that was the bad one.
And then he came back, had a fun little thing with Dolph Ziggler. Then he beat The Fiend. It's just...
That's it. They've sort of overpowered him, haven't they?
Yeah.
In a way, he would have been better facing somebody lower down on the card and battering them. That would have made more sense. But
Like what they did with Ziggler.
Yeah,
So fun.
Exactly, but putting him over them stars that they built for so long, who were there week in, week out, was in a way, it's like it doesn't help his legacy in any way. That really, because if there's better ways to make him look good than have him beating your people who have worked hard for the last 2 years in 3 seconds, isn't there?
I don't mind Goldberg being on the card. It's just putting him in title matches. It just baffles me.
Unless you do it in a way which could be interesting, is where, but by that time, I'm assuming Jimmy Uso's going to be back as well from injury. Unless you have Goldberg have to beat both the Usos or something like that, or even beat Paul Heyman in a stipulation match or something silly like that, to build his way all the way up to facing the tribal chief, and then have Roman Reigns and Goldberg actually have a good match and Roman go over. That feud then makes sense to me and would intrigue me to watch. If a challenge is put in the place of Goldberg, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's got they've done a great job of building Jey Uso up this year from being a tag team.
It's so weird seeing the Usos on a single run.
Well, that's it, and not just that. He's done great, hasn't he? And he's but he's had that potential all this time, and then has not been able to show it. You know what I mean? Which makes me think he's been there for however many years. And this guy's been able to do this all this time. It's just pulling the trigger on these, letting these guys do what they can do. And, it seems sometimes like they're missing the boat a little bit on them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that feud with Goldberg, if you book it, where he's got a challenge in front of him, he's got to beat Jimmy Uso. Then he's got to beat Jey Uso. Put him against both the Usos on the next one. He's got to beat both of them. And here's Paul Heyman. Oh, God. Now Goldberg's had a series of matches from the Royal Rumble to get to face Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And then Reigns is avoiding him or whatever, or doesn't want to face him again, and tells us that. There you go. You've got a storyline suddenly, haven't you? And it's going to be a lot more interesting than just here's Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. Why are we doing that? At least if they do it right, there's a reason for you to be invested in it, which is what we want, really.
But what will happen is after the pay-per-view before WrestleMania, Goldberg will come out and confront Reigns. And
you're next, Roman Reigns.
Yeah, and they'll just
literally say you're next, hit a spear.
Announce on Twitter the next day.
Well, that's what we can hope won't happen, but we'll have to see what does happen.
We'll go back to Facebook here with a question from our very own Ryan Sangster. He says, Sting versus Undertaker, who would win if they're both in their prime?
Yeah, a big shout out to Ryan as well. Yeah, hope he's well.
Nah, fuck that guy.
The opinionated one, Ryan Sangster, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely met him before. And his question was Taker or Sting in their prime?
Yeah.
Who wins? Well, the Sting in his prime, I would say, at his absolute best was sort of early 90s Surfer Sting when he was a face, was absolutely amazing. And then when he came back as sort of the Crow Sting is the character I think people would want to see face Taker, to be honest, which is like the icon Sting, isn't it? So I think people would want to see that Sting take on Taker. I would have liked to have seen sort of old school Taker from the early 90s with Paul Bearer go against Surfer Sting. I think that would have had such a great, heel versus face. I think that would have just been a great match between two guys who are great wrestlers and great talents. But I think if you're going to do it, it's got to be at WrestleMania, and it's the Icon versus the Taker versus the Dead Man. I think Taker goes over at Mania, but it's going to be best of three matches. If you're going to get one match out of him, you might as well have three. So then Sting might get one back at SummerSlam to make it 1-1. And then in the series, at Survivor Series, they finish it off and maybe do some sort of buried alive match. And I think Taker's going to take the series just because overall it's got to be the Undertaker. So yeah, I would say that would be what happens there. So that'd be great. And 2-1 to the Taker. But Sting, was lucky enough to meet Sting and Taker last year. Actually, both absolute legends in the business. It was a real honour to meet them both. And Taker was absolutely great. To meet him and after all these years of seeing him on TV and everything, it was an absolute pleasure. And Sting similarly, he did a Q&A with my friend SoCal Val, and he's sort of quite a private guy outside the ring. There's not much.
Really?
You don't hear many sort of stories, do you, about Sting at all, about his private life or anything? And that is on Fight TV, that interview, and it's a real interesting one to watch, just because he speaks sort of candidly about his opinions and everything, and it's definitely worth checking out if you've not seen it before. But it was really interesting, and to get to meet Sting was great. He was in his full makeup and costume and everything, so it's a great photo, and it's good to chat to him. And I think the two of the best in the business ever, aren't they, those guys? And it's it's great to see that they're still fit and healthy and everything after all their years of hard work wrestling. The fact that Sting is on AEW and could be having some matches in the next couple of weeks.
Would you like to see him wrestle?
Yeah, I would. I think he's think about it. That match he had with Seth Rollins was that 5 years ago now?
Yeah,
something like that. About...
He's been resting, recovering, and I'm assuming working out for 5 years. He is a great wrestler. You've seen wrestlers have matches years after their prime. Ric Flair was wrestling right the way through, actively, constantly. There's no reason why, if booked in the right match, Sting couldn't look amazing again and be, it's all about using him in the right way. You don't want to be putting him in a match against, I wouldn't suggest putting him in a match against like a younger wrestler who's very athletic, like
Sammy Guevara or someone.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
So hinted towards Darby Allin.
Yeah.
Darby Allin takes a beating, doesn't he? But I think it'd be make more sense to have them as a tag team, but going against somebody pretty solid, like potentially you could have Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho versus Sting and Darby Allin.
I think it's leading to Sting and Darby Allin versus Arn Anderson and Cody.
That's also very possible. I'm not sure about how much Arn should be wrestling. I've seen him. I love seeing him deliver the spine buster every now and again. But,
he doesn't need to wrestle much. He can just come in, do some punches, do a spine buster, have Cody and Darby take the reins in the match.
Yeah, I think. I think that's got potential, but I don't know about how well Arn is to wrestle. To be honest, I think I'm a big fan of him and Jake being managers at AEW. I think that's great, and just to see them as characters on TV is enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Sting, I still just feel that even though is he 61, I still feel like he has got more left in the tank, and I think WWE have. I think WWE wasted him. He's been with WWE for 5 years, and has hardly done anything really. Even if you bring him out to be a guest referee or just have him on TV, if you've got that guy there who's an icon, just use him. And, there's things that you can do with him. The cinematic matches prove that you can do stuff with people who...
Sting versus Taker in like a boneyard match.
Exactly. If that never happened, I'll never know. But it's just got money written all over it. And, it's not... I don't think it's going to hurt either of the careers doing it like a boneyard style match, because that was awesome, wasn't it? So, I just think I'm guessing somebody wasn't a big fan of Sting at WWE, and unfortunately, he's gone to AEW, and that's great. It's great for the fans to see him. It's great for him to have a chance to end his career how he wants. He had a decent run at TNA, Impact Wrestling, and
especially that match with Jeff Hardy. Great.
Well, that was one of his worst matches. But definitely not a good moment for Jeff. But we all hope Jeff's past that sort of stage now and has learned from his mistakes. But I just think there's still more to be written about Sting, and I think just his appearance the other week when he first came out and it was snowing and everything, nobody was expecting that. I do. I think it's great. I think any entrance that's visually is just one. I've managed to erase from my mind. Thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
I think Sting's first match will actually be Sting, Cody, and Darby versus Team Taz.
Ooh,
that's what I have.
I think matches that protect Sting,
yeah,
and still make him look great would be the way forward, and I think
I
they
don't
know
think he needs to have
that.
any
So,
singles matches, or maybe one.
yeah, I think the singles match I would like to see, which I think would be safe to see, is Chris Jericho versus Sting,
Yeah.
which is Jericho has been absolutely the main man in AEW. He's been brilliant, I think, and to reinvent himself and do all these other things and be entertaining every week. Chris Jericho's just got an absolute mind for the business, and
He's a great commentator as well.
he's what? Sorry, I missed that.
He's a great commentator as well.
I thought you said he's a great date. I was going to be like, there's something going on here that I don't know. But...
Back in the day when me and Chris Jericho were,
I actually had a pint with Chris Jericho last year at the Pullman Hotel in Liverpool, and an interesting story he told was my good friend, the Hulk, Liam McCann, is a big Beatles fan, and I know Chris Jericho is as well. So I introduced, and the Hulk was telling Chris about his fandom of Paul McCartney and the Beatles. He's been to see them a couple of times, and Jericho told us that he had a Paul McCartney ticket which a fan had gave him for a Paul McCartney concert that was cancelled, and it was ticket number 1.
Wow.
And one of the guys was saying that Paul McCartney, whenever he does a concert anywhere in the world, he invites whoever's ticket number 1 for like a VIP meet and greet before the show. Yeah. So because Chris has got that number 1 ticket, he was hoping at some point in the future to actually get to meet Paul McCartney. So that was just an interesting side, that he's a big Beatles fan. I got to meet him in Liverpool, so that was an interesting conversation, and he was on absolute top form that evening in Liverpool. Really great banter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to see him go against Sting. I think they would have a good match, and I think the psychology and the skill levels of those guys would obviously, if there is any shortcomings in Sting's physical performance, they would protect that, and you wouldn't know any difference, and yet they'd have a great match, which is what everyone wants to see, really. So yeah, I think I still think there's so much potential there, and I think it's a great move by AEW bringing him in. Who wouldn't want the icon Sting on their wrestling show? That's
Exactly. Yeah.
Even if you're looking at future wrestlers and want to concentrate on the future more, so many people are nostalgic about wrestling, and just AEW have got them guys there: Jake the Snake, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. You look at those guys, and they are the past of wrestling, but they're absolute legends. They're icons, and they're people that we look up to as great wrestlers, and they've got so much to teach people. Why would you not want them as part of your company? You've just got to think, how they're adding to your product, definitely. So as much as it's focused on new talent, those guys are the foundations of what it is now. So you've got to embrace them, and just while they're here, make the most of them. Get them guys on TV, and even if they're managers, they're adding to them characters. FTR this week came out basically in Brainbusters jackets with Tully. Just straight away seeing that just made me think, yeah, that's class.
What is the most starstruck you've been? Because you just talked about meeting Chris Jericho. What's the most starstruck you've been meeting a wrestler?
You know what? I don't tend to get really starstruck. I've been lucky enough to meet like all the people I've wanted to meet from wrestling and everything, and just realised that they're great athletes, they're great storytellers. They've worked so hard at their craft, and but as well, you can see that they are normal people.
Yeah.
They've got their attitude turned up to 100%. Their character turned up to 100%, and I just absolutely enjoy meeting people. I think Bret Hart was great when I met Bret. Was lucky enough to have a couple of drinks with Bret and chat to him. Shawn Michaels, another great guy, and met both of them at the same time at a wrestling convention, which was an interesting photo that I would never have thought would occur after '97 with the Montreal Screwjob, obviously. So that's one of my favourite photographs, because you just, you wouldn't ever think you'd get a photo with both of them together, and yet they've made peace and are, both been the bigger man there over that situation. But I will tell you one thing. My favourite wrestler to ever meet, which was not something I'd ever thought would be the case necessarily, was Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Because when I met Hot Rod randomly, it was like meeting an uncle you didn't know you had. That's how I'd describe it. because you go up to meet him and say hello, autograph or whatever. But he was actually genuinely interested in hearing where I'd come from, who I was, what was going on. He wanted to chat to every single person who was there that day, and he was just happy to meet people and just speak on a face-to-face level. And it literally was like meeting a relative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was just such a great guy. And then, to look back at his wrestling career, and the times that he had, that's just, to meet someone like that and have them like actually be interested in what you've got to say, because a lot of people just sign an autograph and have a photo or whatever and aren't really that bothered. You can tell they appreciate the fans, but only because it's like beneficial to them. Whereas speaking to
where my
Roddy
money comes from.
Well, exactly. But speaking to Roddy Piper was just like, it was literally just amazing. It's just great guy, and what a great wrestler as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
one of the weird things I've had about me and the wrestler, I've been starstruck before, but it was sort of like an hour after it happened. So I was at a Riptide show, and I was watching the show. It's the second half of the show, and I was just having a random chat with Colt Cabana.
Oh yeah, he's good banter, Colt.
It was just talk about the show that was happening. Because he's just been in the match. It was a 6-man tag match of him, Joey Wyatt, and Candice LeRae versus British Strong Style. Really fun match.
Oh, it sounds like a good match, yeah.
Yeah, afterwards, it was after interval. We were just having a chat about the show.
Mate, that's awesome. But it's great to have these interactions with people as long as they're positive interactions as well. I've heard horror stories before as well. But I was lucky enough to meet Colt up in Edinburgh. He did a stand-up comedy show at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which I popped in to see, and that was great. It was some showing like some classic botches from wrestling history and like forgotten memories of wrestling. I think he showed a couple of matches there which were voted in like the bottom 10 matches of all time and stuff. And it was great to catch up with him. And I think it was Brendan Burns he was working with on the evening, and he was great fun. But I remember as well, back in the day, I went to 1PW, and it was Colt Cabana and Greg Burridge versus Southern Comfort. So the late great Tracy Smothers, may rest in peace, and Chris Hamrick, his tag team partner, and they did an impromptu dance-off before the match, which was not something I've been expecting from this match. But I think the video of that's somewhere on my YouTube, so I'll link that to you guys so you can check it out, because some of Tracy Smothers' dance moves were pretty special.
The match I spoke about before the match, the referee actually pinned then United Kingdom champion Pete Dunne.
And the referee did.
Yeah.
Oh
and the crowd started chanting, "Are you watching Vince McMahon?" That's honestly one of the most random things ever. But I love when wrestling does stupid things like that.
Yeah.
Makes to see that these
I
characters
like
have
it when
sense of humour.
I think any wrestling show needs that, and I do like it when they're given a little bit of leeway from the WWE contract to do other stuff as well, because I think it's great to see them being on indie shows as well. Like even Triple H himself appeared on ICW, didn't he, at one point?
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to have Pete Dunne, when he was the United Kingdom champion, go against Will Ospreay at TNT. That was, I think, Summer Explosion 2017, I'm tempted to say, when we were in the O2 Academy in Liverpool. But that's a match you definitely want to check out. But we
do.
That was
match being advertised.
So good of WWE to let Pete have that match, obviously, and that's the chances to get those two guys together in a ring. And I was lucky enough to ring announce that one as well. It was a real honour, and it's a match that hasn't happened too many times on a big card. So great to be part of that. Yeah.
We've got this question from Steve Cullen. Of all the shows that you've been on, what is the biggest holy shit moment you've seen?
Oh, Steve's a great guy. He's one of our managers at TNT Extreme Wrestling, and he's a really good family man, and it's a great. Really enjoy working with Steve. And holy shit moments! That OJMO bottle catch was a big holy shit moment. And then we have the DOA deathmatch tournaments at TNT Wrestling once a year, Next year's one is nearly sold out already. So if anyone's a fan of deathmatch wrestling, we do one big DOA tournament a year, and I believe this year's February 27th. I'm tempted to say, but tickets are selling super fast for that. But there are always holy shit moments at TNT Extreme Wrestling's DOA. In the first one, the wrestler who won in the main event, as he's won the match, and I'm announcing that he's won, he runs off backstage, and I'm like, what's going on? Where's he ran off to? He's meant to be getting the trophy. I glanced back behind the curtain, and there was blood squirting out of his arm to the ceiling. So that was a holy shit moment. And
Jesus.
then he decided he was going to come back to the ring and accept his award still. So yeah, but chaos. But it's great to see them things happen at DOA, because they're, them holy shit moments that the crowd are, you're never going to forget that. And there was one this year actually as well. Was I don't know if you've watched Project X, but it's available on Powered 4 TV, and we had Ace Austin from Impact Wrestling.
Oh, I love Ace Austin.
Guys, Ace Austin is another future talent just
He
to
is
look
an
out
absolute
for.
star already.
Exactly, absolutely amazing wrestler. And I won't tell you the exact moment, but if you watch the main event from that show, you'll know what moment I'm talking about when you watch it. So I'll leave that as a little teaser for you to check out Powered 4 TV and check out Project X from earlier this year. And even though we've had such a random year with lockdowns and COVIDs and stuff, we still did have some great wrestling at the start of the year. TNT Extreme was set for a massive year, and unfortunately we haven't been able to, deliver our shows we were looking forward to bringing for the fans and for everyone. But, we've still got, we'll be back 2021, and, going to be a big year for us as long as things are allowed to run smoothly with the government and everything. Hopefully we get that vaccine out. It'll be back to business, and we look forward to entertaining you all.
So I watched the Summer Explosion last year, and I was a bit in awe about Mikey Whiplash versus Ricky Shane Page.
Oh yeah, those guys have had
Division title match.
That's it. Some of these Extreme Division title matches we have, get out of control, and it's crazy. But if you check out DOA for the DOAs, we have a whole night specially dedicated each year to that. I would say it's a sort of niche market, but I've always been a fan of it because I was a fan of Mick Foley, and a lot of his stuff he did when he was Mankind and Cactus Jack. I sort of looked up the deathmatch things then as well, so I've always been a fan of that more violent sort of style. And people like Ricky Shane Page and Jimmy Lloyd, who we've had come over and wrestle for us, and other famous names in that sort of genre of wrestlers. Yeah, and Clint Margera as well from the UK. He's another great one who won DOA last year. But those shows, if you're a fan of that sort of wrestling, make sure to check those out, because there's been some insane stuff going on. And also, interesting, the ladies got involved this year as well. Medusa Complex's Charlie Evans got involved, as did the Session Moth Martina.
Ooh.
And they proved that the girls can go just as hard in death matches as the guys. And there was some sort of there was some crazy stuff going on there. And I think at some point this year, I believe there is going to be a ladies deathmatch tournament as well. Oh. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll have it on the social media soon. So and that's all available on Powered 4. I know I always like to mention Powered 4 because they're doing a great service for the community, especially during lockdown. The footage them guys have got from all the UK shows, they're doing such a great thing, helping all the independent promotions get their matches out there and everything for people to see. And the subscription fees are, so it's great sale. Get involved, and if you haven't checked it out, there's all sorts of special codes available and stuff. So keep your eyes peeled for those. And I believe, guys, that you were going to give one away today.
We are. If you have a winner, if you want to
pick
want me
someone
to pick? Yeah, go on.
Let me see who I've got there.
I'll make sure I'll put it in link to the description as well on both Podbean and YouTube. So then going back to I would say, sorry guys, there was a question that a guy Trev Moulton had asked. I think Trev
could be the long one, today, just about to get onto that one. We can discuss
his question in a moment as well. But but I think a couple of the guys who messaged us, work for Powered 4 TV already. So, and I know Mr. Fisher has already subscribed to TNT. So I think Trev, if we send that over to Trev, because I've also seen that Trev has worked so hard during lockdown with some of his some of the jokes and stuff and memes Trev's made. I don't know if you've seen them, guys, but he's done a cracking job of making some great memes over lockdown. There was one that he'd done with Baby Jesus on that's gone viral. I've definitely seen that a couple of times, and he's a guy who puts, I see stuff popping up all over the show on Facebook of comments of Trev's, and always brings a smile to my face. So we can discuss his question in a moment, but I think I picked Trev as my winner for the TNT Extreme code for Powered 4 TV. And if you don't subscribe already, make sure to check it out. Such a great service those guys are providing, and all sorts of bonus content appearing all the time. So I think you'd be wise to check that out.
So we'll get on to Trev's question. It's a wordy one, so strap yourselves in here.
I'm ready for it.
Will the UK one day have its own national wrestling promotion that will establish itself in the same way that WWE, New Japan, and AAA have been able to do in their respective countries, e.g., distributing live episodic television with pay-per-views and growth strategy that have the capability to penetrate international markets via TV, pay-per-view, and live events? And if not, why?
Right. So, what I like about the UK wrestling community is there is a lot of camaraderie between them already. You'll find, if there's a talent coming over from the States or whatever, that wrestling promotions will work together to book them on shows, the same weekend, and make sure they can travel safely around the UK. And a lot of them do work together in a nice way. The reason I don't think it'll happen, unfortunately, is because each sort of wrestling territory and business, the UK is sort of that's like a territory system at the moment, whereby each promotion sort of has its own area and runs its own shows there. And areas where you've got more than one promotion running, they don't seem to coexist very well, which is something that's a slight issue. So I think it would be very tough to get them to all coexist and agree, because even promotions like in a local area don't always agree with each other over who should be booked. And I just think there would be too much clashing of heads and too many characters for them to be able to bring it together without there being some sort of authority. If, for example, the WWE NXT UK took a bit more of a wider look at the UK promotions and ran stuff like qualifying matches for their shows actually on independent shows and featured that footage, if WWE did something like that and reached out as a higher power to all of the promotions in the UK, then something could happen. But I think it's tough, because making it fair, and some promotions are not on the same level as others, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So for that reason, Trev asked the question, wasn't it? I think it would be tough to get that to run smoothly, but not impossible. But I think at the moment, I'm just glad that promotions are doing well, even during this tough time. Promotions are booking shows next year. And I'll give a shout out to a couple of promotions that I've worked with and familiar with. There's people like North Wrestling up in Newcastle, are getting ready to run again. Rise in Leeds, great guys there. I've worked with them a few times. Brilliant people. Obviously, the Scottish wrestling scene's a bit different at the moment. We'll have to see what happens up there, but looking forward to see what happens. PCW in Preston's been a little bit quieter the last year or two, but they've got stuff going on there, I believe, in the future. Obviously, in Liverpool, we've got TNT Extreme Wrestling and Ignition, and also now Superstar Pro Wrestling as well to watch out for. Wrestle Island on the Wirral, where I work, and also Britannia Wrestling in Wales. All great companies, all there. A lot of them working together as well to make sure the fans are happy. And I did go to the Midlands last year to check out Fight Club Pro, which I really enjoyed. But I don't know what them guys are doing in sort of returning. I haven't heard much from them at the moment. Wrestle Carnival's a new company that's opening up down in Milton Keynes, I believe, and around London area. That's Gary Ward doing that, who I've heard good things about and spoke to him briefly on Wrestling Travel Podcast. So looking forward to hear what that's going to be like. And I know Wrestling Travel are sponsoring that as well, as they sponsor TNT Extreme Wrestling. So, there's so many people to make British wrestling better, but I think it would still be tough to bring together like a national wrestling alliance, so to speak, without sort of outside sort of help, really. So yeah, that would be my response to Trev there.
I think that's all the questions we've got written down, unless you want to ask anything else, James.
That's everything covered that I wanted to find out.
Oh, hey, well, guys, it's been great speaking to you today. An honour to be on the show, and I hope I just wanted to ask you guys, what have you got coming from Hard Camp Wrestling Podcast in the next couple of months? Have you got more interviews coming up? What's the plans?
A lot of interviews coming up with people like RJ Singh. The owner of Wrestle Island has agreed to come on and do an interview, I think.
Oh, is that Peter Blackham? Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah, Pete's a great guy. Him and Jody have... sorry, just to cut in, him and Jody have done such great things at Wrestle Island in Birkenhead, and they do so much for the local community and charity as well. It's I'm sure you'll enjoy speaking to Pete. He's been involved in a feud last year with the Rejected, which will be really interesting topic to talk about when he actually had a match. So I was lucky enough to ring announce that one. So I'm sure there'll be some great stories from that one for you.
Yeah.
And carry on. Sorry, who else have you got coming up?
We've got. Let me have a look. We've got Dale Mills, RJ Singh, Sean Only, Tel Banham, Dean Mitchell. We've got a lot of interviews coming up. And
great.
In the next couple of weeks, we got our end of year award shows. So that's today and next week. A lot of good stuff coming up. Obviously, got our weekly stuff, the AEW and NXT reviews. We've just green-lighted an Impact weekly review. So if you're a fan of Impact.
Yeah, Impact. Me and the guys used to go to Impact Wrestling on their sort of Maximum Impact tours, it was called. And
I used to go to them.
We went to quite a few of them over the years, and I didn't lose interest as such, but I didn't see it as much for a couple of years. It seems to have a little quiet period, but I know I'm hearing a lot of stuff, especially after Ace Austin came over. I've been checking out his work. Excellent. The North and Rich Swan, people like that. I saw an Impact show at WrestleMedia Con, Boulder Centre in Manchester in about 2018, which sort of reignited my passion for their product. And looking forward to hearing your reviews on that, because it might be my only sort of to hear. And
I went to one of the Impact shows in Wembley Arena, and one of my favourite matches I've seen live is on there. It's EC3 versus Rockstar Spider Hair versus Hair. Absolutely incredible match.
Who lost?
Spud.
Ooh.
It was a really good match. Spud was bleeding a lot. It's a really good story.
I think EC3 is another one of those guys who was unfortunately didn't get used correctly in WWE. I think he had so much potential. He looked the part, and if they even used an inch of his character from Impact, he would have made a big name for himself at WWE. But unfortunately, it just didn't seem to happen for him there, which was such a shame. I was going to say one of the best matches I saw from that sort of period of time was I saw randomly Booker T versus Rhino in the Liverpool Olympia, and during that match, at one point Booker T went for the Spinneroonie, and Rhino interrupted him and threw him out the ring. And Rhino then did the best Spinneroonie I've ever seen, which featured him spinning all the way around onto his head and spinning round on his head. Now, I don't know if there's footage of that anywhere, but if there is, it's something I'd definitely like to see again, because it was literally the greatest Spinneroonie I've ever seen. So sorry, Booker, but that honour goes to Mr. Rhino there. So, once again, guys, I was just going to say thank you so much for having me on today.
Pleasure is all ours.
I was going to say, if you want to check out more of the Mad Dog Mike Angus, check me out on TNT Extreme Wrestling. Make sure to keep up for the updates on there. And obviously, I'm on Twitter, Angus Mad Dog. That's a new one that I just set up over lockdown. So I've got a lot of people following on there. Make sure to share all the upcoming wrestling shows and dates, and obviously any podcast interviews I'm involved in, I should try and share on there. So if there's anything you guys want sharing for a wider audience to see, let me know. Send it over to me. And Facebook is Mike Maddog Angus, and my Instagram is Maddog Mike Angus. So, check them out, have a look. All the pictures with the wrestlers are on the Instagram, and the Facebook is always updated with anything interesting in the wrestling world, matches that I like to watch, all sorts of interesting wrestling news and stuff on there. So keep your eyes peeled on that, and to see where you can catch up with me next. So I think next one at the moment booked in is Merseyside Massacre TNT Extreme on January 30th. So I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you guys there. And there's big things in 2021, hopefully.
I'll make sure I put all the social medias in the description in both Podbean and YouTube.
Yeah, make sure you
so
find our Facebook page at Hard Cam Wrestling on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, notifications on, follow us on Podbean, comment any of your feedback. Thank you all for listening. I've been Joseph Parr.
I've been James Richards.
And I've been the Mad Dog, Mike Angus. Have a Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you all for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.